Hey guys, tonight we plunge into the grim heart of a Roman concentration camp, where the air reeks of sweat and despair, and the dawn's first light feels like a slap. Picture this. You're sprawled on a filthy straw mat, the kind that smells like it's been marinating in misery for decades. Your bones ache, your stomach growls, and the distant clank of iron chains reminds you, freedom's a fairy tale. This isn't a cozy history lesson. It's a day-long slog through a place where survival's a coin toss, and you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love picturing you all tucked in across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe cover with blanket for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before dawn, though calling it waking feels generous. It's more like being yanked from a shallow, nightmare-riddled doze. The cell's walls, rough-hewn stone slick with damp, press in like a grumpy uncle who doesn't know personal space. Your breath clouds in the chill, and the straw beneath you crunches with something. Let's not investigate too closely. A faint gray light seeps through a high, barred slit, your only window to the world. Outside, the camp stirs. Boots scuff, dogs snarl, and a low groan ripples from the other prisoners crammed in with you. There's no clock, but the Romans are sticklers for routine, and dawn means roll calls coming. Your cellmates, a ragtag bunch of captured rebels, runaway slaves, and poor sods who just looked at a centurion funny, shuffle to their feet. You follow, joints protesting like they're staging a tiny revolt. The air's thick with the stink of unwashed bodies and despair, plus a whiff of something sour. Probably that wine they served last night, which tasted like regret mixed with vinegar. You're in a castra puna, a punishment camp, likely somewhere in the empire's dusty fringes, maybe Dacia or Judea. These camps, historical records confirm, were brutal holding pens for those Rome wanted to break, physically and mentally, before they were sold, executed, or worked to death. Think of it as the empire's HR department for problem employees. A quirky tidbit, some prisoners, desperate for comfort, carved tiny game boards into the stone floors, playing crude versions of Ludus Latrincularum, a Roman strategy game. You spot one in the corner, half hidden by grime, and wonder if the last guy who played it made it out alive. Probably not. Historians still argue whether these camps were more about punishment or profit. Did Rome care about reforming prisoners, or was it just squeezing every last drop of labor from them? Spoiler, the answer's probably labor, but the debate rages on. The cell door screeches open, and a guard's silhouette fills the frame. He's all leather armor and bad attitude, barking in guttural Latin for you to move. You stumble out, barefoot on the cold dirt, joining a ragged line of prisoners shuffling toward the central yard. Your tunic, more holes than fabric, does nothing against the morning chill. A fellow prisoner, a wiry Gaul with a fresh bruise, mutters about the guard's favorite prank, swapping your sandals for ones 2 sizes too small. Keeps you humble, he says with a grim chuckle. You glance at your own feet, already caked in mud, and think, humble's one word for it. The yard's a chaos of motion, guards shouting, prisoners jostling, and a stray dog darting off with what looks suspiciously like someone's breakfast. You're herded into rows, shoulder to shoulder with strangers who smell like they've never met soap. The head count's about to start, and you've heard rumors. Miss it, and you're in for a bad day. Like flogged in front of everyone bad. You stand straighter, trying to look alive, though your stomach's doing flips and your head's still foggy from whatever passed for sleep. The sun's just peeking over the camp's wooden palisade, painting the sky a bruised purple. It's almost pretty, if you ignore the fact you're in a place that makes a sewer look like a spa. Here's a joke to lighten the mood. Why don't Roman prisoners play Uno? Because they'd eat the wild card thinking it's kimchi. Okay, maybe not your best laugh, but you're not exactly in a comedy club. You scan the faces around you, hollow cheeks, haunted eyes, and a few defiant glares. One guy's muttering prayers to some god you've never heard of. Good luck, buddy. The guard's pacing now, his whip coiled like a snake ready to strike. You're about to learn what order means in a Roman camp, and it's not the kind you place at a drive-thru. The yard's a grim stage, and you're front and center as the sun creeps higher, casting long shadows that make everyone look half dead already. You're lined up with the other prisoners, shoulders brushing, the air thick with the tang of sweat and fear. The guards, all barked orders and polished helmets, strut like they own your soul, which, let's be honest, they kind of do. Roll call's about to start, and it's not just a head count. It's a daily ritual to remind you you're less than nothing. You stand rigid, trying to blend in, because standing out here is about as smart as poking a sleeping bear with a stick. The head guard, a grizzled type with a scar splitting his eyebrow, bellows names, or numbers, since most of you don't rate a name anymore. You're quattuor, Latin for four, because that's the charm of Roman efficiency. Why bother with names when numbers are cheaper? Historical records, like those from the Historia Augusta, show camps like this ran on brutal precision, with daily counts to track every soul, living or otherwise. Miss your number, and you're not just in trouble, you're a lesson for the others. You mutter quattuor under your breath, hoping you don't trip over the Latin. A quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, in a weird act of defiance, scratched their real names into hidden corners of the camp, walls, buckets, even bones. You spot a faint Gaius etched on a nearby post, barely legible under the grime. Was Gaius a rebel, a dreamer, or just bored? Historians still argue whether these marks were cries for identity or just ways to pass the time. Did prisoners cling to their old selves, or were they just doodling to stay sane? No one's sure, but it's a tiny spark of humanity in this soul-crushing place. The guard's voice snaps you back. He's pacing, eyes like a hawk's, scanning for anyone dumb enough to slouch. You keep your head down, but your neighbor, a lanky guy with a cough that sounds like a death rattle, sways on his feet. You nudge him upright, part kindness, part self-preservation. If he collapses, the guards might decide you're all slacking. The air's warming, but it's still cold enough to make your teeth chatter, and your tunic's doing a terrible job of playing blanket. A distant rooster crows, which feels like the universe's worst attempt at a joke. Morning in a death camp, and nature's acting like it's just another Tuesday. Speaking of jokes, why don't Roman guards use Tinder? They're too busy swiping whips instead of profiles. Okay, that one's a stretch, but you're not exactly swimming in stand-up material here. The count drags on, names and numbers blending into a grim roll call of the damned. You notice a guard smirking as he accidentally mispronounces someone's name, earning a flinch from a prisoner who knows better than to correct him. Power games are the camp's favorite sport, and you're not a player, you're the ball. Your stomach twists, partly from hunger, partly from the stench wafting from a nearby latrine trench. Breakfast is coming, if you can call it that. You've heard whispers about the porridge, slimy, gray, and occasionally enriched with things you don't want to name. But you'll eat it, because skipping meals isn't an option when every calory's a fight against collapse. The line shifts as the count finishes, and you're herded toward a wooden table where a cauldron waits, steaming with something that looks like it's plotting revenge. A younger prisoner, barely a teen, mutters about how his village's pigs ate better. You nod, because, yeah, those pigs probably had a 5-star chef. The guards bark for silence, and you comply, though your mind's racing. You're starting to notice the camp's rhythm. Every shout, every glare, every step is choreographed to keep you small. A woman in the row ahead, her hair matted with dirt, steals a glance at you. Her eyes say she's been here too long, but there's a flicker of something. Defiance? Hope? You're not sure, but it's the first thing today that doesn't feel like a punch. You file it away, a tiny mental note for later, because out here, even a look can be currency. The sun's fully up now, painting the yard in harsh gold. You're counted, cataloged, and still breathing. For now. The guards motion you toward the cauldron, and you shuffle forward, already dreading the slop. Your feet drag, kicking up dust that sticks to your sweat. Another day's begun, and you're one step closer to whatever this place has planned for you. Spoiler alert, it's not a spa day. You're in line for breakfast, if you can call it that, clutching a chipped wooden bowl that's seen better days, probably when it was still a tree. The cauldron looms ahead, a hulking iron beast, spewing steam that smells like regret and something faintly moldy. You shuffle forward, the dirt under your bare feet turning to mud from last night's rain. The other prisoners, a grim parade of hollow faces, clutch their own bowls, eyes darting like they're guarding gold. Hunger does that. It turns you into a strategist, calculating how to get your share before someone stronger snatches it. The sun's climbing, but it's doing a lousy job of warming you up. The cook, a prisoner with a permanent scowl and a ladle that's basically a weapon, slops a grayish sludge into your bowl. It's porridge, allegedly, though it looks like something a sewer coughed up. You spot a chunk of, what? Turnip? Bone? A lost dream? You don't ask. Historical records, like those from Roman military texts, confirm camps fed prisoners just enough to keep them working, barely. Gruel was standard, often barley or wheat mixed with whatever was cheapest, like vegetable scraps or, the occasional mystery protein. You force a spoonful down, and it's slimy, gritty, and tastes like sadness with a side of gravel. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners swore by adding crushed insects to their gruel for extra flavor. You eye a beetle scuttling across the table and think, hard pass. Apparently it was a thing in lean times, though. Bugs were free protein, and nobody was checking your Michelin star status. Historians still argue whether this was desperation or a legit camp hack. Was it survival ingenuity, or were prisoners just so broken they'd eat anything? The debate's open, but you're not signing up for the bug buffet. You choke down another bite, trying not to gag. A prisoner across from you, a wiry guy with a beard that's more dirt than hair, grins and says, "Better than yesterday's. It only fights back half as much." You manage a weak chuckle, because humor's the only thing keeping you from tossing this slop at the nearest guard. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman cooks write cookbooks? Because How to Ruin Porridge doesn't sell. You swallow hard, the gruel coating your throat like bad life choices. The guards are watching, leaning against a wooden post, their laughter cutting through the morning air. One's tossing a crust of bread between his hands, taunting a kid in the line who's practically drooling. You keep your head down, because eye contact's an invitation for trouble. Your bowl's half empty now, and you're rationing each bite, knowing lunch is a distant fantasy. A woman next to you, her hands trembling, spills a bit of her porridge. The cook snaps at her, and she flinches like she's been hit. You want to say something, but words are dangerous here. Instead, you nudge your bowl closer, a silent offer to share. She shakes her head, pride or fear keeping her silent. The camp's waking up fully now. Shouts, clanging metal, the creak of cartwheels. You're starting to notice the pecking order. The prisoners who've been here longest get the slightly less moldy bowls. The ones who've learned to nod at the right guards get a second scoop. You're new, quatuor, so you're bottom tier, scraping by on whatever's left. Your stomach's still growling, because this gruel's more tease than meal. You scrape the bowl clean, because wasting food's a crime here, literally. A guy down the line learned that the hard way yesterday. He's still limping. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite breakfast? Anything that doesn't bite back. Okay, you're not winning any comedy awards, but it keeps your mind off the fact that your teeth just crunched something questionable. You glance at the cauldron, wondering if the cook's stirring in extra misery just for fun. The line's moving faster now, and you're pushed along, bowl empty, stomach half full, and a long day of labor looming like a bad Tinder date. As you step away, a guard barks for you to stack your bowl on a rickety table. You do it carefully. Last week, someone dropped one and got a week of half rations. The air's warmer now, but it's heavy with dust and the faint stink of the latrine trench. You're about to be marched to the quarry, and the thought makes your shoulders ache preemptively. You catch the eye of that woman from earlier, the one with the spilled porridge. She gives you a nod, small but real. It's not much, but in this place, it's a lifeline. You tuck it away like that scratched Gaius from the yard and brace for what's next. You're herded out of the yard, the taste of that grim porridge still clinging to your tongue like a bad memory. The guards, all snarls and swagger, prod you into a ragged column with the other prisoners. Your wrists chafe under iron shackles, linked by a chain that clinks with every step. You're marching to the quarry, a half-mile slog across rocky ground that feels like it's personally offended by your feet. The sun's climbing, already baking the earth, and the air's thick with dust that sticks to your sweat. You're not sure what's worse, the weight of the chains, or the fact that you're starting to envy that beetle you didn't eat. The path winds past the camp's wooden palisade, where sentries perch like vultures eyeing a fresh corpse. You pass a cart piled with stones, pulled by prisoners who look one bad day from collapsing. Roman quarries, as texts like Pliny the Elder's Naturalis Historia confirm, were the empire's muscle, churning out limestone and marble for temples, roads, and fancy villas. But for you, it's just a place to break your back. The camp's a machine, and you're a cog, replaceable, expendable, and definitely not getting a performance bonus. A quirky tidbit, some quarry prisoners, in a weird flex of optimism, used to sing work songs to keep rhythm while hauling stones. You hear a faint hum from the guy behind you, a Gaul with a voice like gravel, muttering what might be a tune or just a curse in his native tongue. It's oddly soothing until a guard snaps at him to shut up. Historians still argue whether these songs were acts of resistance or just survival. Did they lift spirits, or were they a way to drown out the misery? No one's got a clear answer, but that hum's the closest thing to hope you've heard all day. You trudge on, the chain yanking when the guy in front stumbles. You catch him by the elbow, earning a grunted thanks before he pulls away. Trust is scarce here, like water or decent food. The quarry's coming into view now, a jagged scar in the hillside, all dust and sharp edges. You spot prisoners already at work, their pickaxes flashing in the sunlight, each swing kicking up clouds of grit. It's like a painting of hell, if hell had a strict quota system. Joke number 1, why don't Roman quarries have unions? Because the only break you get is when your spine gives out. Your feet are raw, the path littered with pebbles that feel like they've got a personal grudge. A guard rides alongside on a horse, his whip dangling like a promise. You keep your eyes down, because looking at him is like waving a red flag at a bull. The Gaul behind you mutters about the last guy who mouthed off. Apparently, he's still picking gravel out of his teeth. You're learning fast. Silence is your best friend. Right after, don't trip. The air's getting hotter, and your tunic's sticking to you like a clingy axe. You're sweating buckets, and not the fancy indoor plumbing kind. The column halts at the quarry's edge, and you're unchained, just enough to work, not enough to run. A guard shoves a pickaxe into your hands, its handle worn smooth by who knows how many others. You glance at the guy next to him, a wiry kid with eyes like he's seen ghosts. He's gripping his tool like it's a lifeline, or maybe a weapon. You don't ask. The overseer, a beefy type with a voice that could curdle milk, barks orders in Latin so fast you barely catch move and faster. You get the gist. Swing, haul, repeat, or regret it. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite workout? Cardio, because you're always running from the whip. You almost snort, but you swallow it. Laughing's a luxury you can't afford. The quarry's alive with noise now, metal on stone, grunts, the occasional curse cut short by a guard's glare. You're starting to feel the camp's rhythm, that soul-crushing beat of work and fear. The woman from breakfast, the one with the spilled porridge, is a few rows over, hauling a basket of rubble. She's moving slow but steady, like she's done this 1,000 times. You wonder what her story is, but wondering's dangerous. It makes you care. The sun's relentless, and you're already dreaming of that foul water bucket you'll get at midday. You swing your pickaxe, the shock jarring your arms, and try to focus. One stone at a time, one breath at a time. You're Quatuor, just a number, but you're still here. For now. You're in the quarry now, and it's a special kind of misery. Think of a gym designed by someone who hates you. Then add dust that tastes like defeat. Your pickaxe feels like it's gained weight since you started swinging, each strike sending a jolt through your shoulders. The stone's stubborn, cracking only when it feels like it, and the air's so thick with grit you're basically chewing the landscape. Around you, prisoners hack and haul, their movements mechanical, eyes dulled by the grind. The sun's a bully overhead, turning your sweat into a second skin. You're Quatuor, just a number, and the quarry's here to remind you of it. Roman quarries, as noted in texts like Vitruvius's De Architectura, were engineering marvels, supplying the empire's endless appetite for grand buildings. But for you, it's a torture chamber with a view. You're cutting limestone, probably destined for some senator's tacky fountain, and every swing's a fight against exhaustion. The rhythm's brutal. Strike, pry, lift, repeat, until your hands blister and your back screams. You glance at the kid nearby, the one with the haunted eyes from the march. He's struggling, his swings barely denting the rock. You want to help, but helping's a risk. Slow down, and the overseer's whip finds you faster than a bad Yelp review. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate for a break, would fake injuries by rubbing red clay on their skin to mimic blood. You spot a guy across the quarry, suspiciously bleeding from a very clean cut. Bold move, but the guards aren't buying it. He's dragged off, probably for a chat that involves more fists than words. Historians still argue whether these tricks were common or just camp legends. Did prisoners really outsmart the system, or were these stories exaggerated to give hope? No one's got proof, but you're not trying that clay stunt anytime soon. You swing again, the pickaxe biting stone, and a chip flies past your ear. Close call. The overseer's pacing, his whip coiled but ready, shouting about quotas. You're supposed to fill a cart by noon, but the pile at your feet looks pathetic, like a toddler's attempt at a sandcastle. Joke number 1, why's the quarry the worst office job? No coffee breaks, just rock-bottom morale. You keep swinging, because stopping's not an option. The Gaul from the march is a few feet away, his humming replaced by grunts as he heaves a slab. He catches your eye and shrugs, like, what are we gonna do? You nod back, a silent agreement to just keep going. The heat's climbing, and your throat's begging for water, but the bucket's hours away. Your hands are raw, blisters forming where the handle digs in. You remember that woman from breakfast, the one with the spilled porridge? She's over by a rubble pile, her basket wobbling as she lifts. She's tougher than she looks, but you see her sway, just for a second. You want to shout something encouraging, but words are a luxury, and the overseer's got ears like a bat. Instead, you focus on your rock, pretending it's the guard's face. It helps, a little.
Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite song? Sweet Child of Mine, because these rocks are definitely not sweet. You almost smile, but the dust in your lungs turns it into a cough. The quarry's noise is relentless, clanging tools, shouted curses, the creak of carts. You're starting to notice patterns. The prisoners who move fastest get the least grief. The ones who lag get a whip's kiss. You're somewhere in the middle, invisible if you're lucky. The kid's falling behind, though, and you see a guard eyeing him. You swing harder, hoping to draw attention away, because solidarity's all you've got, even if it's unspoken. The stone finally cracks, a small victory, and you pry it free, your arms shaking. You drag it to the cart, each step a negotiation with gravity. The Gaul mutters, "Nice one, Quatuor," and you realize it's the first time someone's used your number like it's a name. It's weirdly humanizing, like that scratched Gaius back in the yard. You're not just a cog, not yet. The sun's higher, the dust thicker, and the day's only half done. You wipe your brow, leaving a streak of grime, and pick up the axe again. One swing at a time, you're still here. You're still in the quarry, arms screaming with every swing of the pickaxe, the stone as cooperative as a cat in a bath. Dust coats your lungs, your skin, your everything, and the sun's decided it's personal. You're surrounded by prisoners, all grinding away, their faces set in grim masks of endurance. But the real star of this misery show is the overseer, a hulking brute with a whip that's practically an extension of his arm. He's pacing, eyes scanning for any hint of slacking. And you're doing your best to look like the model prisoner. Swing, pry, repeat, no complaints. Except, internally you're screaming louder than a toddler denied ice cream. The whip's no joke. Roman records, like those in Tacitus' annals, describe how overseers used flagella, leather whips studded with bone or metal, to keep prisoners in line. One lash could split skin. A few could ruin you for days. You've seen the scars on the Gaul's back, crisscrossing like a drunk cartographer's map. You're trying to stay invisible, but the overseer's got a sixth sense for weakness. The kid from earlier, the one with the haunted eyes, is slowing down, his swings barely chipping the rock. You see the overseer's gaze lock onto him, and your stomach twists. This isn't going to end well. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners believed rubbing olive oil, stolen from the guards' rations, on their backs could lessen a whip's bite. You overheard a grizzled prisoner whispering about it yesterday, swearing it worked. Sounds like wishful thinking, but you're not exactly swimming in options. Historians still argue whether these home remedies were legit or just placebo. Did they actually protect, or was it all mental? No one's digging up medical reports from camps, so the debate's stuck. You glance at the kid, wishing you had some magic oil to slip him, but all you've got is a bad feeling. The overseer barks the kid's number, Septem, and you flinch, even though it's not you. The kid freezes, pickaxe mid-swing, and the quarry goes quiet, like the air's holding its breath. The overseer strides over, whip uncoiling, and you focus on your rock like it's the most fascinating thing in the world. Swing, pry, don't look. But you hear it. The whips crack, sharp as a thunderclap, followed by a choked cry. You steal a glance. The kid's on his knees, a red welt blooming across his shoulder. Joke number one, why don't Roman overseers play chess? They'd eat the pawns and whip the board. You swallow the bitter taste in your mouth and keep working. The Gaul, a few feet away, mutters under his breath, "Keep your head down, Quatuor." You nod, barely, because he's right. Heroics get you lashes, not medals. The overseer's not done. He's yelling now, Latin insults flying so fast you only catch lazy and dog. The kid scrambles to his feet, pickaxe shaking in his hands, and starts swinging again, tears mixing with the dust on his face. You want to do something, anything, but the chain on his ankle reminds you you're as trapped as he is. The woman from breakfast is nearby, her basket of rubble paused as she watches, her jaw tight. We're all in this together, but together doesn't mean safe. The Gaul, a few feet away, mutters under his breath, "Keep your head down, Quatuor." You nod, barely, because he's right. Heroics get you lashes, not medals. The overseer's not done. He's yelling now, Latin insults flying so fast you only catch lazy and dog.
The overseer moves on, whip coiled again, but the threat lingers like a bad smell. You swing harder, channeling your fear into the stone, which finally cracks with a satisfying crunch. Small wins, right? Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite dance? The dodge the whip shuffle. You're not laughing, but it keeps your mind off the kid's welt, or the fact that you're one mistake from being next. The quarry's back to its grim rhythm, clangs, grunts, the occasional curse. You're starting to notice the hierarchy. The prisoners who've survived longest move with a careful grace, dodging trouble like it's second nature. You're not there yet, but you're learning. Your hands are blistered, your back's begging for mercy, and the sun's laughing at your pain. You drag your stone to the cart, each step a battle against the heat and the weight. The Gaul gives you a nod, like he's keeping score of who's still standing. You think of that scratched Gaius from the yard, wondering if he ever dodged the whip or if it broke him. The kid's back at work, slower but stubborn, and you feel a flicker of respect. You're all cogs, sure, but some cogs keep turning, no matter what. You pick up your axe, brace for the next swing, and try to ignore the overseer's shadow. You're back in the quarry, but the rhythm's broken. It's midday, and the guards have signaled a pause, though break is a generous term. You drop your pickaxe, arms throbbing like they've got their own pulse, and join the shuffle toward a cleared patch of dirt where lunch is served. Lunch, in this case, is a scrap of stale bread, maybe the size of your fist if you're lucky. The prisoners swarm like ants, elbows sharp, because there's never enough to go around. You're quatuor, still learning the art of survival, and the chaos feels like a twisted game show where the prize is not starving. The sun's at its peak, baking the ground, and the air smells of sweat, dust, and desperation. Roman camps, as noted in sources like the Codex Theodosianus, rationed food tightly. Bread was a staple, often baked days ago and hard as the rocks you're cutting. It's not about nutrition, it's about keeping you functional, barely. You clutch your bread, dodging a burly prisoner who looks ready to tackle you for it. You've seen fights break out over less, a crust, a spilled drop of water. And the guards love watching, like it's free entertainment. You find a spot by a pile of rubble and crouch, guarding your prize like it's the last slice of pizza at a party. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, in a grim kind of barter, traded bread for favors, like a better spot in the sleeping cell or a guard's blind eye. You overhear 2 guys nearby, one offering half his bread for a pair of sandals. Bold move, but sandals might be worth it when your feet are more blister than skin. Historians still argue whether this underground economy was widespread or just small acts of desperation. Did it build alliances or just breed betrayal? No one's got a clear answer, but you're not trading your bread for anything short of a miracle. You tear into the crust, your teeth protesting. It's dry, gritty, and tastes like it was baked with spite, but it's food, so you chew like it's gourmet. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners open bakeries? Because their bread's better as a doorstop. You glance around, sizing up the crowd. The kid from the whip incident, Septum, is a few feet away, clutching his bread with both hands, his welt still angry red under the dust. He's learning fast. Eat quick, trust no one. You want to toss him a crumb, but generosity's a risk, and you're not a saint. A scuffle breaks out nearby. A skinny prisoner lunges for another's bread, and they're on the ground, fists flying. The guards laugh, one betting a copper coin on the skinny guy. You keep your head down, because getting involved is a one-way ticket to trouble. The woman from breakfast, the one with the spilled porridge, is across the clearing, nibbling her bread like a mouse, her eyes scanning for threats. She's smart, staying small, and you're starting to admire her neck for survival. You wonder if she's got a name scratched somewhere, like that Gaius in the yard.
The bread's gone too fast, leaving your stomach grumbling for an encore.
You lick your fingers for the crumbs because every speck counts. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite dessert? The dream of eating again. You're not laughing, but it keeps you from dwelling on the hunger that's already creeping back. The guards are shouting now, signaling the end of the break. You're herded back to the quarry, the sun still hammering, the dust still choking. Your hands ache just thinking about the pickaxe, but you've got no choice. Work or whip, that's the deal. As you stand, you catch Septum's eye. He's still holding his bread, half-eaten, like he's afraid to let it go. You give him a nod, the smallest gesture, and he nods back, a flicker of something like trust. It's not much, but in this place, it's gold. The Gaul from the march brushes past, muttering, "Eat faster next time, quattuor." You smirk, because he's not wrong. The line's forming again, chains clinking, and you're marched back to the rocks. The bread's a memory, the hunger's real, and the day's only half done. You brace for the next swing, wondering how many more you've got in you. You're trudging back from the quarry's edge, pickaxe abandoned for the moment, as the guards herd you toward the watering hole, a grand name for a muddy trench with a few buckets of questionable liquid. The sun's still a tyrant, turning your sweat into a gritty paste, and your throat feels like it's been sandpapered. The bread from lunch, if you can call that pebble of flour lunch, is a distant memory, and your stomach's already composing complaint letters. The other prisoners shuffle alongside, their chains clinking like a grim percussion section, all eyeing the buckets like they're the holy grail. You're quattuor, and right now, water's worth more than gold. Roman camps, as described in texts like Frontinus's Stratagems, prioritized water for control. Guards got the clean stuff, prisoners got whatever was left, often stagnant or worse. You reach the trench where a single bucket sits, its contents shimmering with a suspicious sheen. A guard, chewing on a twig like he's auditioning for casual villain, watches you all scramble. It's one bucket for 20 prisoners, because Rome's all about efficiency, not fairness. You jostle for position, trying not to elbow the kid, Septum, who's still clutching his welted shoulder from the whip. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate to make the water palatable, dropped pebbles into their mouths first, believing it filtered the taste. You see a guy ahead of you pop a small stone in, then sip like he's at a wine tasting. Good luck, buddy. Historians still argue whether this was a real trick or just superstition. Did it actually help, or was it a placebo for people drinking ditch juice? No one's cracking open Roman Yelp reviews to check, so the debate lingers. You're not trying the pebble thing. You'll take your chances with the straight-up grime. You finally get to the bucket, dip in a chipped clay cup that's more crack than container. The water's warm, tastes like dirt with a hint of despair, and you're pretty sure something moved in it. You drink anyway, because dehydration's a worse roommate than the rats in your cell. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners use water filters? Because the camp's version is blink and pretend it's clean. You choke down a second sip, ignoring the grit between your teeth, and step back to let Septum have his turn. He's hesitant, eyeing the bucket like it's a trap. You mutter, "It's bad, but you'll live." He nods, barely, and drinks. The Gaul from the march is behind you, gulping his share like it's fine wine, then spitting out what might be a leaf. "Better than the wine in my village," he grumbles, and you almost smirk. Almost. The woman from breakfast is a few steps away, sipping carefully, her eyes darting to the guard. She's got that survivor's instinct. Slow, steady, invisible. You're starting to think she's the smartest one here, like she's cracked the code to staying alive without drawing attention. You file that away, like the scratched Gaius or Septum's nod, little anchors in this sea of misery.
The guard barks for you to hurry because apparently even drinking's on a schedule. You wipe your mouth, leaving a streak of mud on your hand, and shuffle back to the line. The water's sitting heavy in your gut, like it's debating whether to stay down. Joke number 2.
What's a Roman prisoner's favorite cocktail? Muddy water with a twist of regret. You're not laughing, but it keeps your mind off the fact that you're about to pick up that pickaxe again. The quarry's waiting, its dust already creeping back into your lungs, and the afternoon's promising more of the same. Swing, sweat, survive. As you move, you catch a glimpse of the camp beyond the trench. Wooden barracks, a guard tower, and a pile of stones that's probably your handiwork. It's a machine, this place, grinding you down to nothing. Septim's next to you now, his cup empty, his face a little less pale. "Thanks," he mutters, so quiet you almost miss it. You don't respond. Words are risky. But you feel that flicker again, that tiny thread of connection. The Gaul claps your shoulder, too hard, and says, "Back to the rocks, Quatuor." You nod, chains clinking, and brace for the next round. The water's gone, the bucket's empty, and you're still here. For now. You're back in the quarry, the pickaxe in your hands feeling like an old enemy you're forced to hug. The sun's past its peak, but still relentless, turning the air into a hazy oven. Dust swirls with every swing, coating your throat, your eyes, your soul. You're swinging, prying, hauling stones, each one heavier than the last, your blisters now screaming louder than a Roman tax collector. The other prisoners are in the same grind, their grunts and clangs a grim soundtrack to this endless afternoon. You're Quatuor, just a number, and the quarry's determined to make you feel it. Roman quarries, as detailed in sources like Strabo's geography, were labor-intensive nightmares, designed to extract stone at maximum efficiency while breaking the workers. You heave the stone into the cart, and it lands with a thud that vibrates up your spine. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners play Jenga? Because every block they pull is a life-or-death gamble. You wipe your brow, smearing blood and dust, and grab the pickaxe again. The Gaul, a few feet away, is hauling his own slab, muttering curses in his native tongue. He catches your eye and grins, all teeth and grit. "Nice hands, Quatuor. Bet they're the talk of the camp." You snort, because your palms are a masterpiece, if the medium's pain and suffering. The overseer's pacing, whip coiled but ready, his shadow a constant threat. You swing harder, the pickaxe biting stone, each strike a small rebellion against this place. The woman from breakfast is still at it, her basket of rubble wobbling as she moves. She's got a rhythm, slow, deliberate, like she's dancing with the quarry instead of fighting it. You're starting to think she's the one to watch, the one who's figured out how to bend without breaking. You remember her spilled porridge, that nod after the water bucket, and wonder if she's got a Gaius scratched somewhere, a mark of who she was before. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite yoga pose? Downward dog, because you're always bending under the whip. You're not laughing, but it keeps your mind off the blood trickling down your wrist. The quarry's noise is relentless, clangs, shouts, the creak of carts, like a symphony conducted by a sadist. You're learning the pecking order. The prisoners who haul fastest get a moment's rest. The slow ones get a guard's boot. You're somewhere in the middle, invisible if you're lucky. Septim's falling behind again, and you see the overseer's eyes narrow. You swing harder, hoping to distract, because that kid's got enough scars for one day. Another stone cracks free, and you drag it, your hands leaving red smears on the limestone. The cart's almost full, a small victory, but the overseer's already pointing to another pile. You're starting to feel the afternoon's weight, not just the stones, but the hours, the heat, the hunger creeping back like an unwelcome guest. The Gaul mutters, "Keep up, Quatuor, or we're both hauling at dusk." He's half joking, but duskwork's no myth. Miss quotas, and you're here till the stars come out. You nod, gripping the pickaxe, and focus on the next swing. Joke number 3, why's the quarry the worst Tinder date? It's all heavy lifting and no spark. You almost smile, but the dust in your lungs turns it into a cough.
The sun's dipping, casting long shadows that make the quarry look even bleaker, if that's possible. Septum's still at it, slower but stubborn, and you feel that flicker of respect again. The woman's still moving, her basket steady now, like she's made peace with the rocks. You're all cogs, sure, but some cogs shine, even in this grind. You swing again, hands bleeding, and tell yourself you're still here, one stone at a time. You're still in the quarry, the pickaxe an extension of your aching arms, each swing a grudging compromise with the stone. The sun's lower now, painting the dust clouds gold, but it's no less brutal. Your hands are a bloody mess, and every breath feels like inhaling a sandstorm. Around you, prisoners haul and hack, their faces etched with exhaustion, but there's a new undercurrent in the air. Whispers, barely audible, passed between swings. You catch fragments. Tonight, gate, run. Your pulse quickens, because talk like this is dangerous, like juggling torches in a straw hut. You're Quatsuar, and you're about to overhear a plan that's either salvation or a death sentence. Roman camps, as noted in texts like Cassius Dio's Roman History, were rife with escape attempts, most doomed by betrayal or bad luck. Guards relied on fear and informants to squash rebellions before they started, and the punishment for plotting was grim. Crucifixion wasn't just a story. You keep swinging, eyes on the rock, but your ears are tuned to the murmurs. The Gaul, a few feet away, is talking to a wiry prisoner with a limp, their voices low, masked by the quarry's clatter. You catch sentry shift and dark, and your stomach twists. Escape sounds like a dream, but dreams here come with chains.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate for luck, carve tiny charms, think crude birds or stars, into stone chips, believing they'd protect and escape. You spot a pebble near your foot, etched with a wobbly crescent moon, half buried in the dirt. Someone's hope, discarded or lost. Historians still argue whether these charms were spiritual or just coping mechanisms. Did prisoners truly believe in their power, or were they just clinging to anything that felt like control? No one's sure, but you're not picking up that pebble. Luck's a risky bet in a place like this. You pry a stone free, the effort making your hand scream, and drag it to the cart. The Gaul glances your way, his eyes narrowing like he's sizing you up. You keep your face blank because showing interest is as bad as joining in. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners play poker? Too many snitches calling your bluff. You haul the stone, trying to ignore the whispers now spreading like a virus. Septum, the kid with the welt, is nearby, his swing slower, his head cocked like he's hearing it too. You want to warn him, eavesdropping's a trap, but a guard's watching, so you just swing harder. The wiry prisoner limps past, muttering about a loose bar near the west gate. It's bold, talking so close to you, and you wonder if it's a test. The overseer's pacing, whip in hand, and you focus on your rock like it's your life's passion. The woman from breakfast is across the quarry, her rubble basket steady, but her eyes flick toward the whisperers, then away. She's smart, staying out of it, and you're starting to think she's your survival role model. You remember her nod at the water bucket, that quiet strength, and wonder if she's heard these whispers before, maybe even seen where they lead. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite escape plan? The one where you wake up free. You're not laughing because the air's heavy with risk. The Gaul's still talking, his voice a low growl, and you catch midnight before he clams up. A guard's getting close, his boots crunching gravel, and the whispers die fast. You swing your pickaxe, the shock jarring your bloody hands, and try to look like you've heard nothing. Septum's staring at you now, his eyes wide, like he's begging for a signal. You shake your head, just a fraction, because this plan's got disaster written all over it. The cart's full, and you drag another stone, your shoulders begging for mercy. The overseer barks about quotas, but you're barely listening. Your mind's on that crescent moon pebble, on midnight and west gate. You're not joining in, no way, but the idea's planted like a seed in cracked earth. Joke number 3, why is escaping a Roman camp like a bad rom-com? Lots of running, no happy ending. The sun's sinking, the quarry's shadows stretching, and the whispers fade as the guards tighten their watch. You glance at the Gaul, who's back to hauling, his face unreadable. Septum's swinging again, slower, like he's carrying the weight of that plan. You're all cogs, but some cogs dream of breaking free. You grip your pickaxe, hands bleeding, and keep working, because for now, that's all you've got. You're still in the quarry, the sun dipping lower, casting jagged shadows that make the stones look like teeth. Your hands are a bloody mess, the pickaxe handle slick with sweat and worse. But you keep swinging, because pausing is begging for trouble. The whispers of rebellion from earlier have faded, smothered by the guards' watchful eyes, but the tension lingers like a bad smell. Now, though, the quarry's rhythm is broken by a new spectacle. The guards have decided it's time for some fun. You're herded to a cleared patch of dirt, where a burly centurion with a smirk like a hyena's is setting up what they call a game. Spoiler, it's not charades. You're Quatuor, and you're about to be a pawn in their sadistic sport. Roman camps, as hinted in texts like Suetonius's Lives of the Caesars, sometimes used prisoners for cruel entertainment, pitting them against each other or guards in rigged contests to boost morale. Guard morale, not yours. Today's game is a twisted foot race. Prisoners, still chained, must sprint across the quarry to grab a single crust of bread tossed into the dirt. Winner eats, losers get a guard's boot or worse. You're lined up with a dozen others, including Septum, whose welted shoulder looks worse in the fading light. The Gaul's next to you, muttering curses, his eyes fixed on the centurion like he's memorizing his face for later.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate to win these games, rub their feet with stolen grease from cart axles, believing it made them faster. You notice a guy nearby, his ankles suspiciously shiny, giving you a sly grin. Good luck, pal. Chains don't care about your life hacks. Historians still argue whether these games were just cruelty or a calculated way to divide prisoners. Did they break solidarity, or were they just the guards' twisted hobby? No one's got a definitive answer, but you're not feeling super united right now, not with that bread on the line. The centurion tosses the crust, and the line surges, chains clanking like a broken orchestra. You stumble forward, the shackles biting your ankles, trying to stay upright. Septum's beside you, his face set, but he's slower, his injury dragging him down. You could shove past him, grab the bread, but something, maybe that nod at the water bucket, holds you back. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners join track teams? Too busy tripping over their own chains. The Gaul's ahead, all elbows and grit, but a guard accidentally steps in his path, sending him sprawling. The crowd of guards roars with laughter, because this game's rigged, and you're all just props. You dodge a flailing arm, your bloody hands throbbing as you push forward. The bread's in the dirt, taunting you, but a wiry prisoner, the one with the shiny ankles, snatches it, only to be tackled by another. They're rolling, fists flying, and the guards cheer like it's a gladiator match. You pull back, because getting caught in that mess is a one-way ticket to a beating. Septum stopped too, panting, his eyes on the brawl. Idiots, he mutters, and you nod, because yeah, that bread's not worth a broken nose. The woman from breakfast is on the sidelines, watching with that quiet intensity, like she's taking mental notes. You're starting to think she'd outsmart this game without breaking a sweat. The centurion calls it off, bored now, and the wiry guy limps away, breadless and bruised. The guards herd you back to work, their laughter echoing. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite sport? Hunger Games, minus the cool bows. Your stomach's growling, that measly lunch bread a faint memory, but you're glad you stayed out of the fray. The Gaul's dusting himself off, his pride more bruised than his body. Next time, Quatuor, he grumbles, and you shrug, because next time sounds like a threat, not a promise. You pick up your pickaxe, the quarry's rhythm swallowing you again. Swing, pry, haul. Your hands bleed onto the handle, but you're used to it, like you're used to the dust, the heat, the fear. Septum's back at his rock, slower but stubborn, and you catch his eye,
that flicker of trust still there. The woman's hauling rubble, her movement steady, like she's above the guards' games. You think of that scratched Gaius, that crescent moon pebble, and wonder if they dodged games like this, or if they played and lost. Joke number 3, why's a Roman camp like a bad reality show? Everyone's competing, but the prize is just surviving. The sun's sinking fast, and you swing again, because the day's not done, and neither are you. You're back in the quarry, the sun now a sullen glow on the horizon, painting the dust clouds a bruised orange. Your hands are raw, the pickaxe a cruel extension of your will, but the day's grind pauses as a new scene unfolds. A prisoner's down, crumpled near a pile of rubble, his leg twisted at an angle that screams trouble. The guards, instead of helping, bark for the medic, a fellow prisoner with no training but a knack for not passing out at the sight of blood. Your quatuor shuffled to the side with the others, watching this grim attempt at first aid. It's less Grey's Anatomy, more backyard surgery with extra despair. Roman camps, as noted in sources like Galen's medical writings, rarely provided real doctors for prisoners. Makeshift medics, often just inmates with steady hands, patched up injuries to keep the workforce limping along. This medic, a gaunt man with a limp and a sack of dubious tools, kneels by the injured guy, whose biting back screams. You wince as the medic pulls out a bone needle and thread that looks like it's been through a few too many bodies. The guards watch, bored, one tossing pebbles like it's a slow day at the Colosseum. You're supposed to keep working, but everyone's stealing glances, because this could be you tomorrow. You dodge a flailing arm, your bloody hands throbbing as you push forward. The bread's in the dirt, taunting you, but a wiry prisoner, the one with the shiny ankles, snatches it, only to be tackled by another. They're rolling, fists flying, and the guards cheer like it's a gladiator match. You pull back, because getting caught in that mess is a one-way ticket to a beating. Septum stopped too, panting, his eyes on the brawl. "Idiots," he mutters, and you nod, because yeah, that bread's not worth a broken nose.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some camp medics used wine as an antiseptic, but since prisoners got the dregs, it was more vinegar than vintage. Sting like hell. Help questionable. You overhear a prisoner mutter about the last guy who got treated with that swill. He's still got an infection that glows in the dark. Historians still argue whether these medics saved lives or just delayed the inevitable. Were they unsung heroes, or did their crude fixes do more harm than good? No one's digging up Roman medical charts, so the debate's open. You're just glad it's not your leg under that needle. The medic's stitching now, the injured guy's face gray as the quarry dust. You grip your pickaxe, trying to look busy, because lingering's a magnet for the overseer's whip. Septum's nearby, his welted shoulder stiff, watching with wide eyes like he's memorizing every wince. You want to tell him to look away. Gawking's bad for the soul, but the guards are too close. The Gaul, a few feet off, mutters, "Better him than us, quatuor." Cold, but true. Joke number 1, why don't Roman medics get 5-star reviews? Their Yelp page is just screams and stitches. The woman from breakfast is across the quarry, her rubble basket paused, her gaze steady but distant, like she's seen this show before. You're starting to think she's got a steel core under that quiet exterior. Spilled porridge, water bucket nod, dodging the guards game, and now this, just watching, not breaking. You wonder if she's patched wounds herself, or if she's just smart enough to stay clear. The medic ties off the thread, the stitch job crooked but done, and the injured guy's hauled to his feet, half dragged back to work. No rest, no mercy. Rome's got quotas to meet. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite doctor? The one who doesn't use a rock as a scalpel. You're not laughing because the medic's wiping blood on his tunic, and you're wondering how many hands that needle's seen. The guards bark for everyone to move, and you swing your pickaxe, the shock jarring your bloody palms. The quarry's rhythm swallows you again, clang, grunt, haul. But the scene sticks, like that crescent moon pebble or the whispers of midnight. Septum swinging too, slower, like the medic's work rattled him.
You catch his eye, give a slight shake of your head, "Focus, kid," and he nods, gripping his tool tighter. The overseer's back, whip coiled, shouting about delays. You drag a stone, your hands leaving red smears, and try not to think about that needle, or the vinegar antiseptic, or the fact that a twisted ankle could be your ticket to the same treatment. The Gaul's hauling nearby, his curses a low hum, and you feel that flicker of connection. Him, Septum, the woman, all surviving, one swing at a time. Joke number 3, why's a Roman camp like a bad HMO? You're lucky if the cure doesn't kill you. The sun's almost gone, the quarry cooling, but the work doesn't stop. You swing again, hands screaming, and tell yourself you're still here, needle or not. The quarry's bathed in the last gasps of sunlight, the sky a dull red like it's embarrassed by the day's cruelty. You're exhausted, hands bloody, pickaxe heavier than your will to keep going. The guards are rounding everyone up for sunset inspection, a daily ritual where they hunt for infractions, too slow, too sloppy, or just breathing wrong. You're herded into the central yard, chains clinking, and forced to stand rigid in rows, shoulder to shoulder with prisoners who smell like sweat and defeat. You're quator, and right now your only goal is to avoid catching a guard's eye, because attention here comes with a side of pain. Roman camps, as described in sources like Polybius's Histories, used inspections to enforce discipline, cataloging prisoners' output and sniffing out dissent. It's less about order and more about reminding you you're a cog, not a person. The head guard, the one with the scarred eyebrow from roll call, paces the line, his boots kicking up dust. He's got a tablet, clay, not iPad, where he scratches notes with a stylus, probably tallying who's worth keeping alive. You stand straighter, ignoring the ache in your back, because slouching's a one-way ticket to a flogging.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Desperate to look productive, smeared extra quarry dust on their tunics before inspection, hoping it passed for hard work. You notice a guy in the next row, his rags suspiciously gray, giving the guard a nervous grin. Bold strategy, but you're not banking on dust to save you. Historians still argue whether inspections were purely punitive or a way to gauge labor efficiency. Did they just crush spirits, or were they Rome's twisted HR review? No one's got a clear answer, but you're betting on crush, given the guard's sneer. The scarred guard stops in front of Septum, who's next to you, his welted shoulder still raw from the whip. You hold your breath as the guard eyes him, stylus tapping. Septum's rigid, but his hands tremble, and you will him to stay still. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners love performance reviews? Because the feedback's always a lash. The guard grunts, moves on, and you exhale, but the tension's thick as the dust in your lungs. The woman from breakfast is in the row ahead, her posture perfect, like she's mastered the art of being invisible. You're starting to think she's the camp's secret MVP. Porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging the guard's game, and now this, standing like a statue. The guard's stylus scratches as he pauses by the dusty tunic guy, who's sweating buckets. Trying to fool me, the guard barks, and the guy's hauled out of line, protesting. You don't look, eyes forward, quatuor, but you hear the slap of a fist, a groan. The Gaul, on your other side, mutters, "Idiot," under his breath, and you nod, because, yeah, dust isn't a personality trait. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite makeover? A dust bath that gets you a beating. You're not laughing, but it keeps your mind off the guard now circling back, his boots too close for comfort. The inspection drags, the air cooling as the sun dips below the palisade. Your stomach's growling, that midday bread a cruel tease, and you're dreading the evening slop already. The guard's tablet is full now, and he's barking names, numbers really, for those who failed. Yours isn't called "Thank whatever gods are listening," but Septum's flinch says he's not so sure about his luck. The woman's still steady, untouched, and you wonder if she's got a scratched Gaius somewhere, a charm like that crescent moon pebble, keeping her safe.
The memory of those rebellion whispers, midnight, Westgate, flickers, but you push it down. Not now, not here. Joke number 3. Why is a Roman inspection like a bad blind date? You're judged, rejected, and still stuck there. The guard finally steps back, satisfied, and you're dismissed to the mess area, chains clinking as the line shuffles. Septum's still beside you, his trembling gone, replaced by a grim set to his jaw. The Gaul claps your shoulder, too hard, and says, "Survived another one, quatuor." You smirk because, yeah, surviving's the only wing you get. The yard's emptying, the dust settling, and you brace for the next round. Slop, sleep, or whatever this place throws at you. You're still standing, for now. You're shuffling from the sunset inspection, the yard's dust still settling as the sky fades to a bruised purple. Your hands sting, your back's a knot of pain, and hunger's gnawing like a rude neighbor who won't quit. The guards herd you toward a rough wooden table where dinner, generously called slop, waits in a cauldron that looks like it's seen better days, possibly as a siege weapon. The air's cooling, but it's heavy with the stench of unwashed bodies and something sour wafting from the pot. You're quatuor, clutching your chipped bowl, and all you want is to eat without your stomach staging a revolt. Roman camps, as noted in texts like Apicius' culinary fragments, fed prisoners the cheapest slop. Think barley gruel or vegetable mush, often rancid from sitting too long. Tonight's stew is a murky brown, with chunks that might be cabbage or something that once had feelings. You line up, dodging elbows, because portions are small and tempers are shorter. The cook, the same scowling prisoner from breakfast, ladles out a serving that barely covers the bowl's bottom. You stare at it, wondering if it's food or punishment. Spoiler, it's both.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate for flavor, tossed in bits of straw or even dirt, swearing it thickened the stew. You see a guy ahead of you drop a pinch of quarry dust into his bowl, stirring it like he's a gourmet chef. Bold choice, but you're not eating dust pie tonight. Historians still argue whether these additions were survival hacks or just madness. Did they make the slop bearable, or were prisoners so broken they'd eat anything? No one's got a clear answer, but you're sticking with the stew's default misery. You take your bowl and crouch by a pile of crates, guarding it like it's gold. The first spoonful is bad. It's slimy, bitter, and your gut's already filing a complaint. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners write food blogs? Because rancid stew's surprise doesn't go viral. Septum's nearby, poking at his own bowl, his welted shoulder stiff as he grimaces. "Tastes like my village's compost," he mutters, and you snort because, yeah, compost's probably got more charm. The woman from breakfast is across the way, eating slowly, her eyes scanning the crowd like she's mapping escape routes. You're starting to think she's got a PhD in surviving this place. Porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging the guards game, and now eating like it's a strategy. The Gaul plops down beside you, his bowl half empty already. "Eat fast, quatuor, or the rats'll steal it," he says, nodding at a scrawny rodent eyeing your stew. He's not wrong. Rats here are bolder than the guards. You swallow another spoonful, trying not to gag, and feel it sit like a rock in your stomach. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite dinner date? A bowl of slop that doesn't fight back. You're not laughing because the stew's churning, and you're praying it stays down. The guards are lounging nearby, one tossing bones from their own meal, laughing as prisoners flinch. You notice Septum's barely eating, his spoon hovering like he's debating whether it's worth it. You want to nudge him. "Eat, kid, you need the strength." But a guard's too close, his whip dangling. The woman's still at it, her bowl nearly clean, and you admire her grit. She's not just surviving, she's playing the long game, like she knows something you don't. You think of that scratched Gaius, the crescent moon pebble, those rebellion whispers, midnight, Westgate, and wonder if she's heard them too. You push the thought away. Stew's your focus now, not dreams of freedom. Joke number 3, why's Roman stew like a bad Tinder match? It looks okay at first, then leaves you regretting everything. You force down the last spoonful, your stomach grumbling in protest, and stack your bowl with the others. The guards are shouting now, herding you toward the cells for the night. Septum's up, his bowl half full, and you give him a look. Eat next time. He nods, barely, and shuffles along. The Gaul claps your shoulder, muttering, "Survive the night, Quatuor." You smirk, because surviving's all you've got. The air's cold now, the camp quieting, and you brace for the cell, the rats, and whatever tomorrow brings. You're trudging toward the cells, the night air sharp against your sweat-soaked skin, the rancid stew still waging war in your gut. The camp's quieting, but it's a tense quiet, like the moment before a storm. The guards herd you into your cramped stone cell, the same damp, straw-strewn box you woke in, its walls closing in like a grudge. You're Quatuor, and tonight you're not alone. Your cellmate, a scarred man with a cough that sounds like it's auditioning for a horror flick, is already slumped in the corner. He's got stories, and as the door slams shut, he starts talking, his voice low, spilling grim truths about this place. You're stuck listening because sleep's a distant dream, and his words are all you've got. Roman camps, as noted in sources like Tacitus's Annals, housed prisoners in tight, filthy cells to break their spirits, often packing multiple people into spaces barely fit for one. Your cell's no exception, barely enough room to lie down, with straw that smells like it's been through a few too many nightmares. The scarred man's tales are a mix of fact and fear. Escape attempts gone wrong, guards who bet on how long you'll last, and a guy who swore he saw a ghost in the quarry. You're not sure what's true, but his gravelly voice pulls you in, like a campfire story you can't escape.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, craving connection, scratched messages into cell walls. Not just names like Gaius, but full sentences, like, "I was here," or "Jupiter save me." You squint in the dim light and spot a faint vivo carved near the floor, Latin for "I live." It's oddly hopeful, or maybe just stubborn. Historians still argue whether these scratches were defiance or despair. Did they mark survival, or were they cries from people who knew they'd never leave? No one's sure, but that vivo feels like a handshake from someone long gone. You trace it with a finger, careful not to let your cellmate see. He's talking about a friend who tried to bribe a guard with a stolen coin. Didn't end well, apparently. "They strung him up at dawn," he rasps, coughing into his fist. You nod, keeping your face blank, because reacting's risky, even in here. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners play therapist? Because the only couch is straw, and it's got fleas. Septum's in the next cell, you think, his cough quieter, but still there. You wonder if he's hearing similar stories, or if he's curled up, replaying that whip's crack. The woman from breakfast, probably nearby, feels like a ghost herself. Her nod, her steady hands, her silence. You bet she's listening, not talking. The scarred man leans closer, his breath sour. "Heard about the West Gate?" he whispers, and your heart skips. Those rebellion whispers, midnight, West Gate, are back, and you don't like how they're following you. You shrug, playing dumb, because snitches are everywhere, even in cells. He chuckles, like he knows you're dodging, and switches to a tale about a guard who got drunk and fell into the latrine. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite bedtime story? One where the guard's the punchline. You smirk, because it's the first thing today that doesn't hurt, but you're not relaxed. His West Gate comment's got you on edge. The cell's cold, the straw prickling through your tattered tunic. You shift, trying to find a spot that doesn't feel like a rock's personal vendetta. The man's still talking, now about a winter so bad the gruel froze in the bowls. You're half listening, half watching the barred slit above, where a sliver of moonlight sneaks in. It's almost pretty if you ignore the screams you heard last night. You think of the woman's steady gaze, Septum's stubborn swings, the Gaul's shoulder clap, small anchors keeping you from sinking. That vivo on the wall feels like a challenge, daring you to keep going.
Joke number 3. Why's a Roman cell like a bad Airbnb? No stars, just scars, and a lousy view. The scarred man's winding down, his cough worse, his stories trailing into mumbles. You're not sleeping yet. Rats are rustling, and those whispers are gnawing at your mind. You lie back, straw crunching, and stare at the ceiling, wondering if Vivo was a promise or a lie. The camp's asleep, or pretending to be, and you're still here, for now, bracing for whatever dawn brings. You're lying on the cell's damp straw, the cold seeping into your bones like an uninvited guest. The scarred man's stories have faded into snores, his cough a ragged counterpoint to the night's uneasy quiet. You're quatuor, and sleep's playing hard to get, chased away by the echoes of screams that pierce the darkness. They're not constant, but when they come, sharp, raw, human, they cut through the camp like a blade. You're not sure if it's punishment, despair, or something worse, but each cry tightens the knot in your chest. The moonlight through the barred slit above is your only company, and it's doing a lousy job of reassuring you. Roman camps, as hinted in sources like Josephus's Jewish War, were designed to amplify fear. Screams weren't just accidents, they were tools, letting prisoners know resistance or weakness had consequences. You pull the tattered tunic tighter, though it's about as warm as a politician's promise. The screams come again, fainter now, from the direction of the guard barracks. Maybe a flogging, maybe an interrogation about those West Gate whispers you overheard. You don't want to know, but your mind's spinning worst-case scenarios anyway. Crucifixions, beatings, or that drunk guard from your cellmate's story taking out his bad day.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate to block out the night's horrors, stuffed straw in their ears, believing it dulled the sounds. You see a clump near your feet, tempting, but it's crawling with something you'd rather not invite into your head. Historians still argue whether these coping tricks worked or just made things worse. Did they offer real relief, or were prisoners just trading one misery for another? No one's got a clear answer, but you're not desperate enough for straw earplugs. Yet. You shift, the straw crunching, and try to focus on the Vivo scratched into the wall, that stubborn mark of survival. Another scream, this one cut short, and you flinch, your heart racing like it's trying to escape without you. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners sleep soundly? Because the camp's lullaby is a scream remix. You're not laughing, because the silence that follows is worse, heavy, like the camp's holding its breath. You think of Septum in the next cell, probably awake, his welted shoulder throbbing. Is he hearing this too, or is he tougher than you, curled up and dreaming of better days? The woman from breakfast, with her steady gaze and quiet strength, feels like she'd stare down these screams without blinking. You want to borrow her spine, just for tonight. The scarred man coughs, muttering in his sleep about no more chains. You wonder what he's dreaming of, freedom or just a day without pain. Those rebellion whispers, midnight, West Gate, creep back, and you push them away. They're trouble, and you've got enough of that. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite nightmare? The one where you wake up still here. You're not smiling because the rats are rustling again, bolder now, and you swear one's eyeing you like you're the evening slop. You kick the straw, and it scurries off, but the unease stays. You try to picture something else, maybe that crescent moon pebble from the quarry, or the Gaul's grin when he called your bloody hands the talk of the camp. Small things, but they're yours, like that nod from the woman at the water bucket. Another cry echoes, distant, and you clench your fists, your bloody palms stinging. You're starting to understand the camp's rhythm, even at night. Fear, pain, survival, repeat. The screams aren't random, they're part of the machine, grinding you down. You think of her, the woman, eating her stew like it was strategy, dodging the guard's game, standing steady at inspection. She's not screaming, you bet. She's planning, waiting. Joke number 3. Why's a Roman camp like a bad horror flick? The jump scares never stop, and you're not the final girl. You lie back, straw poking through your tunic, and stare at the moonlight sliver. The screams have stopped, for now, but the quiet's no kinder.
You're still here, Quatuor, with the scarred man snores, the rats rustle, and that Vivo daring you to keep going. You close your eyes, not expecting sleep, just hoping to outlast the night. The camp's waiting, and dawn's coming, ready or not. You're still in the cell, sprawled on the prickly straw, the night's chill sinking into your bones like a debt you can't pay. The screams have faded, leaving a silence that's somehow louder, broken only by the scarred man's ragged snores and the skitter of rats bold enough to treat your cell like a buffet. You're Quatuor, and sleep's a cruel tease. Every time you drift, a rustle or a distant shout yanks you back. You're fighting for rest, not just against the cold and the vermin, but against the weight of this place, where even dreams feel like they come with a whip. The moonlight sliver through the barred slit is fading, and you're clinging to every second before dawn's rude wake-up call. You're still in the cell, sprawled on the prickly straw, the night's chill sinking into your bones like a debt you can't pay. The screams have faded, leaving a silence that's somehow louder, broken only by the scarred man's ragged snores and the skitter of rats bold enough to treat your cell like a buffet. You're Quatuor, and sleep's a cruel tease. Every time you drift, a rustle or a distant shout yanks you back. You're fighting for rest, not just against the cold and the vermin, but against the weight of this place, where even dreams feel like they come with a whip. The moonlight sliver through the barred slit is fading, and you're clinging to every second before dawn's rude wake-up call. You're still in the cell, sprawled on the prickly straw, the night's chill sinking into your bones like a debt you can't pay. The screams have faded, leaving a silence that's somehow louder, broken only by the scarred man's ragged snores and the skitter of rats bold enough to treat your cell like a buffet. You're Quatuor, and sleep's a cruel tease. Every time you drift, a rustle or a distant shout yanks you back. You're fighting for rest, not just against the cold and the vermin, but against the weight of this place, where even dreams feel like they come with a whip. The moonlight sliver through the barred slit is fading, and you're clinging to every second before dawn's rude wake-up call. You're still in the cell, sprawled on the prickly.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate for sleep, whispered chants to Morpheus, the god of dreams, believing it coaxed rest despite the chaos. You overhear a faint murmur from the next cell, maybe Septum, maybe someone else, repeating a soft, rhythmic phrase. It's oddly soothing until a rat squeaks and ruins the vibe. Historians still argue whether these rituals were spiritual lifelines or just exhaustion talking. Did they actually help, or were prisoners grasping at myths to survive the night? No one's sure, but you're not chanting. You'd rather glare at the rats than beg a god who's clearly not on your side. You shift, straw crunching, and feel a sting from your bloody hands, still raw from the quarry. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners count sheep? Because the rats keep eating them. You're not laughing because another rat's eyeing you, and you're half tempted to name it Overseer for its attitude. The scarred man coughs, muttering about chains again, and you wonder if he's dreaming of the Westgate whispers you both heard. You push that thought down. Those midnight plans are a trap, and you're not biting. You think of the woman from breakfast, her steady gaze, eating stew like it was chess. She's probably sleeping, or at least faking it better than you. A faint clank echoes outside, guards maybe, or a gate shutting. Your stomach twists, remembering those screams, the Vivo scratched into the wall. You glance at it, barely visible now, and wonder if its carver made it through nights like this. The rats are quieter, but the cold's louder, creeping up your spine. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite blanket? The one that doesn't exist. You're not smiling because your teeth are chattering and you're curling tighter, trying to trap what little warmth you've got. Septum's cough drifts from the next cell, softer now, like he's finally out. Lucky kid, or maybe he's just too tired to care. You try closing your eyes, picturing something kinder, maybe that crescent moon pebble, or the gull's grin when he mocked your hands. Small things, but they're yours, like the woman's nod at the water bucket, or Septum's stubborn swings despite the whip.
Another rustle and you freeze, but it's just straw settling. The camp's asleep, or pretending to be, and you're still fighting for a moment's rest. Joke number 3, why's a Roman cell like a bad hotel? No mints, just mice, and a 0-star rating. You breathe slower, willing your heart to calm and focus on the vivo. It's not a promise, but it's proof someone kept going. You're still here, Quator, rats and all, and dawn's coming whether you sleep or not. You're still in the cell, the straw beneath you a prickly mockery of a bed, the night's cold gnawing at your bones like a dog with a grudge. The scarred man's snores are a gravelly drone, and the rats have finally backed off, probably plotting their next raid. You're Quator, and you've maybe snatched an hour of sleep, but it's the kind that leaves you more tired, haunted by half-dreams of whips and west gates. Now, the pre-dawn darkness is shattered by the thud of guards' boots and the sharp bark of dogs outside. You're roused, heart pounding, as the cell door screeches open and you're yanked back into the camp's brutal rhythm before the sun's even thought about showing up. Roman camps, as described in sources like Vegetius's De Re Militari, started the day early, often before dawn, to maximize labor and keep prisoners off balance. The guards don't care that your body's screaming for rest. They're shouting in guttural Latin, their lanterns casting flickering shadows that make the cell look like a nightmare sketchbook. You stumble to your feet, joints creaking, and shuffle out with the scarred man, who's coughing harder now, his eyes bleary. The dogs, mangy beasts with teeth like daggers, snap at your heels, and you move faster because those jaws don't negotiate. The scarred man coughs, muttering about chains again, and you wonder if he's dreaming of the Westgate whispers you both heard. You push that thought down. Those midnight plans are a trap, and you're not biting. You think of the woman from breakfast, her steady gaze, eating stew like it was chess. She's probably sleeping, or at least faking it better than you. A faint clank echoes outside, guards maybe, or a gate shutting. Your stomach twists, remembering those screams, the vivo scratched into the wall. You glance at it, barely visible now, and wonder if its carver made it through nights like this. The rats are quieter, but the cold's louder, creeping up your spine. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite blanket? The one that doesn't exist. You're not smiling, because your teeth are chattering.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate to calm the dogs, whispered their names, believing it softened their temper. You overhear a guy in the line ahead muttering, "Good, Cerberus," to a snarling mutt, and it almost works until the dog lunges and he scrambles back. Historians still argue whether this was a real tactic or just wishful thinking. Did prisoners actually bond with the dogs, or were they just trying to charm their way out of a bite? No one's got proof, but you're not risking a nickname with these fur-covered enforcers. You keep your head down, avoiding eye contact with both dogs and guards. The air's sharp, cutting through your tattered tunic, and the yard's a chaos of motion. Prisoners stumbling, guards barking, dogs circling like they're auditioning for a villain role. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners adopt the camp dogs? Because loyal means biting you first. You're herded into a ragged line, the same spot as yesterday's roll call, and you spot Septum a few places down, his welted shoulder hunched. He's awake, barely, his eyes darting to the dogs. You want to give him a nod, but a guard's too close, his lantern swinging. The woman from breakfast is in the row ahead, her posture steady, like she's already shaken off the night's terrors. You're starting to think she's made of iron. Porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging screams, and now this, standing like the dogs don't faze her. A guard shouts your number, "Quator," and you snap to attention, muttering it back, your voice hoarse. The scarred man's next, his cough interrupting his number, and a guard snaps at him to speak clearer. You flinch, remembering the whip's crack, and focus on the ground, still damp from last night's dew. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite alarm clock? A dog that thinks you're breakfast. You're not laughing because a dog's sniffing too close, and you're praying it doesn't take a liking to your leg. The line's forming, the guards counting heads, their lanterns bobbing like fireflies with bad attitudes. You think of that vivo scratched in the cell, the crescent moon pebble, the gull's shoulder clap, small anchors in this storm. Those Westgate whispers feel like a lifetime ago, but they're still there, nagging, dangerous. The woman's still steady, her gaze fixed ahead, and you wonder if she's heard the dogs before, if she's got a plan to outlast them. Septum's trembling, just a bit, and you will him to hold it together. The guards finish the count, and your march toward the quarry, dogs trailing, their growls a low hum. Joke number 3, why is a Roman camp like a bad pet store? The dogs are free, but you're the one in chains. The sky's gray, dawn's edge creeping, and you brace for another day, boots and barks still ringing in your ears. You're in the yard, the pre-dawn gray barely softening the camp's harsh edges, the guards' boots and dogs' barks still echoing in your skull. Your quatuor, shuffled into a grim parade of prisoners, but today's got a twist, it's punishment day. A scrawny prisoner, caught stealing an extra crust yesterday, is dragged to the center, his face pale as the dawn. You're forced to watch, lined up under the watchful eyes of guards who look like they've been waiting for this all week. The air's thick with dread, and you're fighting to keep your breakfast slop down as the flogging begins, a brutal reminder of what happens when you step out of line. Roman camps, as noted in sources like Livy's History of Rome, used public punishments like floggings to crush defiance and deter others, often making prisoners witness the spectacle. The scrawny guy's tied to a wooden post, his tunic ripped to expose his back. The head guard, the one with the scarred eyebrow, wields a flagellum, leather straps studded with bone, and each crack against skin makes you flinch. The prisoner's cries are sharp, then ragged, and you focus on the dirt, because looking up feels like inviting the whip yourself. Septum's next to you, his welted shoulder a silent echo of the scene, and you can feel his tension like it's your own. The guards finish the count, and you march toward the quarry, dogs trailing, their growls a low hum. Joke number 3, why is a Roman camp like a bad pet store? The dogs are free, but you're the one in chains. The sky's gray, dawn's edge creeping, and you brace for another day, boots and barks still ringing in your ears. You're in the yard, the pre-dawn gray barely softening the camp's harsh edges, the guards' boots and dogs' barks still echoing in your skull. Your quatuor, shuffled into a grim parade of prisoners, but today's got a twist, it's punishment day. A scrawny prisoner, caught stealing an extra crust yesterday, is dragged to the center, his face pale as the dawn. You're forced to watch, lined up under the watchful eyes of guards who look like they've been waiting for this all week. The air's thick with dread, and
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate to cope, whispered old folk rhymes during punishments, believing it distracted their minds from the horror. You catch a faint hum from the Gaul, a few spots down, his lips barely moving. Maybe a song from his village, maybe just noise to drown out the screams. Historians still argue whether these rituals were resistance or survival. Did they preserve sanity, or were they just a way to hide from reality? No one's got a clear answer, but you're not humming. You're too busy keeping your knees from buckling. The whip cracks again, and you grit your teeth, your bloody hands clenching. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners bet on floggings? Because the house always wins with a whip. The woman from breakfast is in the row ahead, her posture rigid, but her head's tilted slightly, like she's memorizing the guard's moves. She's iron, porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging dogs, and now this, watching without breaking. You wonder if she's seen this before, if she's counting lashes like a grim tally. The scrawny guy's moans weaken, the post creaking under his weight, and you pray it's over soon, for his sake and yours. The guard pauses, wiping sweat from his brow, and the silence is worse than the cracks. Septum's breathing hard, his eyes fixed on the ground, and you want to nudge him. Stay strong, kid, but a guard's too close, his whip dangling.
The Gaull's hum stops, his face unreadable, and you think of his shoulder clap, calling you quatuor like it's a name, not a number. That vivo scratched in the cell, the crescent moon pebble. They're small, but they're yours, holding you together as the flogging resumes. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite spectator sport? Not this one, unless you're into nightmares. The punishment ends, the scrawny guy slumped, barely conscious, as guards cut him down. He's dragged off, maybe to the makeshift medic, maybe to worse. You're marched back toward the quarry, the dogs circling again, their growls a low threat. The woman's moving now, her steps steady, like the flogging was just another day. You're starting to think she's got a secret, a way to bend without breaking, and you want to learn it. Septum still beside you, his jaw tight, and you catch his eye, giving a slight nod. We're still here. He nods back, a flicker of that trust from the water bucket. Joke number 3, why's a Roman camp like a bad reality show? Everyone's watching, but no one's winning. The sky's lightening, the quarry looming, and your hands ache just thinking about the pickaxe. The punishment's over, but its weight lingers, like those Westgate whispers or the screams in the night. You're still quatuor, still standing, and as the guards bark orders, you brace for the rocks, the dust, and another day of surviving, one swing at a time. You're back in the quarry, the morning sun already a harsh glare, turning the dust into a choking haze. Your hands, still bloody from yesterday, grip the pickaxe like it's an old grudge, each swing a battle against the stone and your own exhaustion. The flogging's still fresh in your mind, the scrawny guy's cries echoing like a ghost in the quarry's clatter. But something shifts today. You're hauling a slab when your foot catches on a jagged edge, unearthing a grim relic, a small weathered bone, half buried in the dirt, etched with faint scratches. It's a prisoner's mark, maybe a name, maybe a plea, and it stops you cold. You're quatuor, and this hidden tomb in the quarry's heart is a reminder that not everyone makes it out. Roman quarries, as noted in sources like Pliny the Elder's Naturalis Historia, were often graveyards as much as workplaces, with exhausted prisoners buried where they fell, their bodies left to the earth. You crouch, hiding the bone from the overseer's watchful eyes, and trace the scratches. Maybe a letter, maybe a symbol, worn by time. It's not vivo, not that stubborn hope from your cell, but something sadder, like a whisper cut short. You cover it quickly, because lingering's a risk, and the guards don't care about your archaeology moment. Septum's nearby, swinging his pickaxe, his welted shoulder slower today, and you wonder if he'd understand this find, or just see another ghost. Joke number 3, why's a Roman camp like a bad reality show? Everyone's watching, but no one's winning. The sky's lightening, the quarry looming, and your hands ache just thinking about the pickaxe. The punishment's over, but its weight lingers, like those Westgate whispers or the screams in the night. You're still quatuor, still standing, and as the guards bark orders, you brace for the rocks, the dust, and another day of surviving, one swing at a time. You're back in the quarry, the morning sun already a harsh glare, turning the dust into a choking haze. Your hands, still bloody from yesterday, grip the pickaxe like it's an old grudge, each swing a battle against the stone and your own exhaustion. The flogging's still fresh in your mind, the scrawny guy's cry.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, believing in afterlife luck, buried small tokens, bones, pebbles, even broken tools, with their dead, hoping it'd guide their souls. You think of that crescent moon pebble you saw, wondering if it was meant for a grave like this. Historians still argue whether these burials were acts of reverence or just practicality. Did prisoners honor their fallen, or were they just clearing space for the next shift? No one's sure, but this bone feels personal, like it's asking you to remember. You stand, dusting your hands, and swing again, the weight of the find heavy as the stone. The overseer's pacing, whip coiled, shouting about quotas, and you keep your head down, because a bone's no excuse for slacking. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners start museums? Because their exhibits keep getting buried. Septum glances your way, like he senses something's off, but you shake your head. Not now, kid.
The woman from breakfast is across the quarry, hauling rubble with that steady rhythm, her eyes flicking to the ground, maybe searching for her own relics. She's iron, porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging floggings, and you bet she's seen bones before, maybe even buried them. You want to ask, but words are dangerous and the overseer's too close. You drag a stone to the cart, your bloody hands leaving smears, and feel the bones ghost in your mind, joining the vivo, the Westgate whispers, the screams. The Gaul's nearby, grunting as he hauls, and he mutters, "Eyes on the rock, Quator, not the dirt." He's right, daydreaming's a whip magnet, but you can't shake the find. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite archaeology dig? The one that digs your grave. You're not laughing, because the quarry's a tomb, and you're still breathing. But for how long? The sun's climbing, the dust thicker, and you swing harder, like you can outrun the bone's warning. Septum's struggling, his swing's weak, and you see the overseer's gaze lock on. You step closer, hauling your stone louder, hoping to draw the whip's attention. It works, barely, and Septum shoots you a look, gratitude maybe, or just relief. The woman's still moving, her basket steady, and you think of her nod, her silence, her survival. That bone could have been hers, or Septum's, or yours, and the thought makes your hands shake. Joke number 3. Why's a Roman quarry like a bad history class? The past keeps popping up, and it's never good news. You pry another stone, the quarry's rhythm swallowing you, clang, grunt, haul, and tuck the bone's memory away, next to Vivo and the Gaul's grin. You're still here, for now, one swing at a time. You're deep in the quarry, the sun now a merciless hammer, turning the air into a gritty furnace. Your hands, crusted with blood and dust, clutch the pickaxe like it's your last friend, though it's a lousy one. Each swing feels like it's borrowing strength you don't have, and the stones seem to mock you, cracking only when they're good and ready. The flogging's memory lingers, the bone you found still haunts, and now the heat's turning the quarry into a special kind of hell. You're Quator, and you're wilting, sweat stinging your eyes, while the guards lounge in the shade, sipping water like they're at a spa. Heat stroke's a real threat, and they couldn't care less. You're a cog, and cogs don't get sick days. Roman quarries, as noted in sources like Vitruvius's De Architectura, were brutal in summer, with heat stroke and dehydration felling prisoners as often as whips. You're dizzy, your throat raw from dust, and the water bucket from yesterday feels like a cruel myth. Septum's a few feet away, his welted shoulder sluggish, his swings barely denting the rock. He sways, and you tense, because collapsing here's a one-way ticket to the medic's bone needle, or worse. The guards don't even glance his way, their laughter drifting over like they're betting on who drops first. You keep swinging, because stopping's a whip's invitation, but your vision's blurring, and the heat's squeezing your skull. Septum's struggling, his swing's weak, and you see the overseer's gaze lock on. You step closer, hauling your stone louder, hoping to draw the whip's attention. It works, barely, and Septum shoots you a look, gratitude, maybe, or just relief. The woman's still moving, her basket steady, and you think of her nod, her silence, her survival. That bone could have been hers, or Septum's, or yours, and the thought makes your hands shake. Joke number 3. Why's a Roman quarry like a bad history class? The past keeps popping up, and it's never good news. You pry another stone, the quarry's rhythm swallowing you, clang, grunt, haul, and tuck the bone.
Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate to cool off, pressed wet quarry mud to their necks, believing it drew out the heat. You see a guy nearby, smearing sludge on his skin, looking like a kid who lost a mud pie fight. It's tempting, but you're not sure if it's genius or delirium. Historians still argue whether these tricks worked or just spread infections. Were they survival hacks, or did they trade one misery for another? No one's got a clear answer, but you're not slathering on mud yet.
You'd rather dream of that foul water bucket, even with its mystery floaters. You pry a stone free, the effort making your head spin, and drag it to the cart, each step a negotiation with gravity. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners carry umbrellas? Because the sun's their only friend, and it hates them. The woman from breakfast is across the quarry, her rubble basket wobbling, but she's still moving, her face set like she's wrestling the heat and winning. She's iron, porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging bones, and you bet she's got a trick to outlast this inferno. You want to learn it, but the overseer's pacing, whip ready, and you focus on not collapsing. Septum sways again, and you step closer, hauling louder to cover his falter. "Breathe, kid," you mutter, barely audible, and he nods, gripping his pickaxe tighter. The Gaul's nearby, his swing steady, but even he's sweating buckets, his usual grin gone. "Hotter than a smith's forge, quatuor," he grumbles, and you smirk, because yeah, this quarry's cooking you alive. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite sauna? The quarry, but the towels are made of dust. You're not laughing because your tongue's stuck to the roof of your mouth and the cart's still not full. The overseer's shouting, his voice a dull roar in your foggy head, and you swing again, praying for a breeze that never comes. That bone you found, the vivo in the cell, the West Gate whispers, they're distant now, drowned by the heat's pulse. You think of the woman's steady gaze, Septum's stubborn swings, the Gaul's shoulder clap, small anchors keeping you upright. Another prisoner stumbles, ignored by the guards, and you wonder how many fell here, buried like that bone. Joke number 3, why's a Roman quarry like a bad beach day? No shade, no waves, just a sunburn that kills. You drag another stone, your vision swimming, and feel the heat's weight, heavier than any rock. Septum still swinging, the woman still hauling, and you're still here, quatuor, one shaky swing at a time, wilting but not done. You're still in the quarry, the sun a fading tyrant now, dipping toward the horizon, but leaving the air thick with heat and dust. Your hands, bloody and raw, grip the pickaxe like it's a lifeline, though it's more like a grudge you can't shake. Each swing is a slog, your body running on fumes after the heat stroke scare, the bone's grim shadow, and the flogging's echo. But a new whisper's creeping through the prisoners, softer than the West Gate talk, yet sharper with hope. Amnesty. Word spreading that the emperor, some distant guy in a toga, might pardon a few prisoners for a festival. You're quatuor, and you're clinging to this rumor like it's the last crust of bread, even if it's probably a mirage. Roman emperors, as noted in sources like Suetonius's Lives of the Caesars, occasionally granted clemency during festivals like Saturnalia, freeing select prisoners to boost their image. It's rare, and you're not holding your breath. Emperors don't exactly browse quarry rosters for talent. Still, the rumor's alive, passed in hushed tones between swings. Septum, nearby, his welted shoulder slower, perks up when he hears it, his eyes flickering with something you haven't seen, hope. You want to warn him, hope's a trap here, but you're clutching it too, imagining a world beyond chains. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate to be noticed for amnesty, polished their shackles to a shine, believing it'd catch a guard's eye. You spot a guy across the quarry, rubbing his chains with a rag like he's prepping for a parade. Good luck, pal. Sparkle won't get you to Rome. Historians still argue whether these gestures swayed guards or just fed delusions. Did they ever work, or were prisoners just polishing their own despair? No one's sure, but you're not buffing your chains. You'd rather swing your pickaxe and dream of freedom without the extra chore.
The overseer's barking, whip coiled, and you swing harder, because slacking now could bury your amnesty dreams. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners write pardon letters? Because the only ink's their blood, and it's all used up. The woman from breakfast is hauling rubble, her steady rhythm unbroken, but her eyes flick to the whisperers, like she's weighing the rumor's worth. She's iron, porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging heat stroke. And you bet she's heard amnesty talk before. Maybe even laughed it off. You want her skepticism, but your heart's traitorously hopeful, picturing a gate opening, chains falling. Septum mutters, "Think it's true, Quator?" And you shrug, because answering's risky with guards nearby. "Dream later, swing now," you say. And he nods, his pickaxe biting stone. The Gaul's close, his grin back despite the heat. "Amnesty's for senators' pets, not us," he scoffs, but his eyes linger on the horizon, like he's dreaming too. Joke number 2, what's a Roman prisoner's favorite fairy tale? The one where the emperor knows your name. You're not laughing, because the dust's choking you, and the cart's still not full. You drag a stone, your bloody hands stinging, and try not to picture freedom. It's too bright, too painful. The rumor's spreading, but the overseer's glare keeps it quiet. You think of that bone, the vivo in the cell, the West Gate whispers. Hope's a dangerous guest, like this amnesty talk. The woman's still hauling, her gaze steady, and you wonder if she's clinging to it too, or if she's too smart for that. Septum's swinging faster, like pardons of fire under him, and you worry he'll burn out. You step closer, hauling louder to cover his shaky swings, and he shoots you a look. Gratitude, maybe? Or just shared desperation. Joke number 3, why's amnesty like a Roman quarry? It's a lot of heavy lifting for a slim chance. The sun's sinking, the quarry cooling, and you swing again, clinging to the rumor, true or not, because it's all you've got. You're in the quarry, the sun now a dull glow behind the hills, casting long shadows that make the stones look like silent judges. Your hands, bloody and cracked, cling to the pickaxe, each swing a borrowed act of will. Your body screaming for rest after the heat, the bone's grim discovery, and that fleeting amnesty rumor. The day's final task looms, dragging one last stone to the cart, a slab heavier than your hopes, its edges biting into your palms like it knows you're running on empty. You're Quator, and this is endurance, the quarry's last test before dusk, with guards watching like hawks and the whip's shadow never far. You're not sure if you're stronger than yesterday, or just too stubborn to fall. Roman quarries, as noted in sources like Strabo's Geography, pushed prisoners to their limits, with late-day hauls designed to break the weak and weed out the defiant. You're dragging the stone, muscles burning, the chain on your ankle rattling like a cruel metronome. The cart's close, but it might as well be in Rome, and the overseer's shouting about quotas, his whip uncoiled, ready to motivate. Septum's nearby, his welted shoulder sluggish, hauling a smaller stone, but swaying like the heat still got him. You want to help, but you're barely managing your own load, and the guards don't reward teamwork. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate for strength, chewed quarry dust mixed with spit, believing it hardened their resolve. You see a guy ahead, spitting out a gritty wad, his face set like he's channeling Hercules. You're not eating dirt, but you get the desperation. This stone is a beast. Historians still argue whether these rituals were superstition or survival. Did they boost morale, or were prisoners just swallowing their own misery? No one's sure, but you're sticking with sweat and stubbornness, not dust smoothies. You heave the stone, your bloody hand slipping, and feel the quarry's weight, physical and otherwise.
The overseer's eyes lock on you, and you push harder, because being noticed now's a bad bet. Joke number 1, why don't Roman prisoners lift weights? Because the quarry's their gym, and the coach is a whip. The woman from breakfast is across the way, her rubble basket steady, moving like the day didn't touch her. She's iron, porridge spill, water bucket nod, dodging amnesty dreams, and you bet she's dragging her last stone with that same calm. You want her secret because your lungs are burning and the cart's still a few steps off. Septum stumbles, his stone wobbling, and you mutter, "Keep going, kid," low enough to dodge the overseer's ears. He nods, barely, and pushes on. The Gaul's hauling nearby, his grin gone, replaced by a grimace as he drags his own slab. "One more, Quatuor, then we're done," he pants, and you smirk, because done just means surviving till dawn. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite finish line? The one where you're still breathing. You're not laughing because the stone's fighting back and your vision's spotting from the effort. You think of that bone, the vivo in the cell, the west gate whispers, small sparks, but this stone's all that matters now. You heave again, the cart's edge finally in reach, and feel a flicker of triumph, fragile as dust. The woman's already at her cart, her task done, her gaze flicking to you like she's keeping score. You wonder if she's got a scratched mark somewhere, a vivo of her own, or if she just carries it inside. Septum's stone hits his cart, a soft thud, and he slumps, spent but standing. You push your slab in, the weight lifting for a moment, and the overseer grunts, moving on. Joke number 3. Why's a Roman quarry like a bad marathon? You're running on empty, and the prize is just another lap. The sky's darkening, the quarry quieting, and you're still here, Quatuor, hands bleeding, heart pounding, one last task done. The guards bark for the march back, and you brace for the night, clinging to endurance, because it's all you've got. You're trudging back from the quarry, the dusk air cool but heavy with dust and the day's weight, flogging, bones, heat, and that final stone still aching in your muscles. Your hands, bloody and raw, hang limp, the chains on your ankles clinking like a cruel lullaby. The guards herd you toward the cells, their lanterns casting jittery shadows, and you're Quatuor, too drained to think straight. Tonight, though, your mind slipping, weaving dreams of escape despite the iron holding you fast. You're not plotting, not after those West Gate whispers, but the idea of freedom dances in your head, fragile and dangerous, like a flame in a straw pile. You're caught between exhaustion and longing, and the chains remind you, dreams don't unlock gates. Roman camps, as noted in sources like Cassius Dio's Roman History, crushed escape dreams with brutal efficiency. Patrols, dogs, and informants made running a fool's bet, yet prisoners still dreamed. You shuffle into the cell, the same damp stone box, the straw still prickly with rat's ambition. The scarred man's already there, coughing, his eyes glinting as he watches you slump down. You don't talk, but your mind's racing. Open fields, no whips, maybe a river to wash the dust away. It's a fantasy, not a plan, because the chains are real and the dog's barks echo outside. You're not running, but you can't stop dreaming. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, desperate for hope, scratched escape routes into the straw, hiding them under their bodies, believing it'd guide their dreams to freedom. You notice a faint pattern in the straw near your hand. Lines, maybe a map, maybe nothing. It's gone when you blink, but it lingers in your head. Historians still argue whether these scratches were serious plans or just escapism. Did they plot real routes, or were they just drawing their heart's desires? No one's sure, but you're not carving maps. You're too tired, and the vivo on the wall feels like enough rebellion for now.
You lie back, straw jabbing, and let the dream unfold. No overseer, no quotas, just sky. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners book vacations? Because the only getaway comes with a crucifixion. The scarred man coughs, muttering about guards, and you wonder if he's dreaming too, or if his scars killed that long ago. Septum's in the next cell, his cough softer, maybe dreaming of amnesty, that rumor you both clung to. The woman from breakfast, probably nearby, feels like she'd dream with one eye open. Porridge spill, water bucket nod, hauling stones like a strategist. You bet she's got freedom mapped in her head, not straw. A rat scurries past, and you don't flinch. You're too deep in this false freedom, picturing a village, bread that doesn't taste like regret.
The west gate whispers creep ack, midnight, loose bar, but you push them away. They're not your dream. Yours is softer, less deadly. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite dream? The one where the chains are just a bad joke. You're not smiling because the cell's cold, and the moonlight sliver through the barred slit is fading. You think of the bone, the flogging, the gall's grin. Small anchors, but they're slipping as the dream takes hold, pulling you somewhere the whip can't reach. The scarred man shifts, his snores breaking, and you freeze, half expecting him to ask about your thoughts. He doesn't, and you're glad. Dreams are private, even here. You curl tighter, the straw crunching, and let the fantasy linger. No dogs, no dust, just quiet. Joke number 3. Why's a Roman cell like a bad therapist? It traps your dreams and charges you in pain. The camp's asleep, or pretending, and you're still here, quatuor. Chains heavy, but mind free, for now. You close your eyes, not expecting sleep, just chasing that false freedom a little longer, because dawn's coming, and it won't care about your dreams. You're in the cell, the straw beneath you a familiar torment. The night's cold wrapping around you like a debt you'll never pay. The scarred man's snores are a rough rhythm, and the rats have settled, their rustles faint, as if even they're too tired to scheme. You're quatuor, and you're collapsing. Not just your body, worn thin by the quarry's stones, the whip's shadow, and those fleeting dreams of escape, but your spirit, teetering on the edge of surrender. You're unsure if tomorrow will come, or if you want it to. The vivo scratched into the wall feels like a taunt now, not a promise. And the moonlight's gone, leaving you in darkness thick enough to choke. You lie still, every ache a question. Can you keep going? Roman camps, as noted in sources like Tacitus's Annals, were designed to grind prisoners into nothing, pushing them past endurance until they broke or vanished into the quarry's dust. You're there now, your bloody hands curled into fists, the day's weight, flogging, bones, amnesty rumors, and that last stone crushing you. The cell's silence is heavy, broken only by the scarred man's cough and a distant dog's bark. You think of Septim, his welted shoulder, maybe curled up next door, fighting his own collapse. The woman from breakfast, with her iron will, porridge spill, water bucket nod, steady through it all, feels like a beacon, but even she might be fading tonight. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some prisoners, at their lowest, whispered their old names to the dark, believing it to remind them who they were before the camp. You mouth quatuor, but it's just a number, not you. Maybe you had a name once, but it's lost, like that crescent moon pebble or the bone in the quarry. Historians still argue whether these rituals preserved identity or just deepened despair. Did they anchor prisoners, or were they cries into a void? No one's sure, but you're not whispering anything. You're too tired, and the vivo is enough, even if it stings.
You shift, straw prickling, and feel the day's toll in every muscle. Joke number 1. Why don't Roman prisoners make bucket lists? Because survive till dawn is the only item. The scarred man mutters in his sleep, something about chains, and you wonder if he's given up too, or if his scars are proof he hasn't. Septim's cough is silent now. Maybe he's asleep, maybe worse. The woman's out there, somewhere, and you picture her steady gaze, hauling rubble like it's a choice, not a sentence. You want her strength, but you're sinking, the cell's walls closing in, the darkness whispering that tomorrow's just another whip. Joke number 2. What's a Roman prisoner's favorite song? Ain't No Sunshine, because there really isn't. You're not laughing, because your chest's tight, and the air feels thinner, like the camp's stealing your breath.
You think of the Gaul's grin, calling your hands the talk of the camp, or Septim's nod at the water bucket. Small sparks, but they're flickering out. The West Gate whispers, the amnesty rumor, even that grim bone, they're all fading, leaving you with just this moment, this collapse. You curl tighter, the straw a cruel bed, and wonder if Vivo was a lie, or if you're still its truth. Joke number 3. Why is a Roman cell like a bad diary? It holds your pain, but no one's reading. You close your eyes, not expecting sleep, just waiting for dawn's boots and dogs. The camp's still, a predator lying in wait, and you're quator, broken but breathing, unsure if that's enough. And now let the day's weight slip, like stones falling soft into a quiet river. You're here, in this moment, not the quarry's dust or the cell's cold, but somewhere gentler, where the air is warm and the chains are gone. Picture a field, wide and green, the grass brushing your fingers, no whips, no shouts, just a breeze that carries the scent of earth and rest. You've carried so much, bloody hands, heavy stones, whispers of hope and fear, but you can set them down now, let them sink into the earth where they belong. The woman's nod, Septim's stubborn swings, the Gaul's grin, they're with you, not as burdens, but as soft lights guiding you to peace. The Vivo isn't a challenge anymore, it's a whisper, saying you've done enough. Breathe slow, let your heart ease, and feel the world soften, the stars above a blanket, not a judge. You're safe here, drifting, the camp far away, its shadows fading into a hush. Rest now, let the night hold you, and slip into dreams as gentle as a sigh.